Hey everybody, I have recently watched the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie starring Christy Swanson as Buffy. Obviously this was written by Joss Whedon and it also features Donald Sutherland, Paul Rubens, Rutger Hauer and Luke Perry as, I can't remember his name, Pike, I think his name was something like that anyway. So obviously we all know Buffy the Vampire Slayer from this hit television series starring Sarah Michelle Gellar. This was what came first. This was the first incarnation of Buffy. I do think that using this picture of her in her senior dance dress with the darker background is to make it more serious, more like the TV series. As opposed to the original cover and the original poster, which showed her wearing a crop top and a small skirt holding a stake like that, looking very camp. So Christy Swanson plays Buffy, who doesn't have a surname in this film. She becomes Summers in the series. Buffy is basically a typical teenage, vapid valley girl from California, LA. She's interested in boys, she's interested in shopping, and what's the other thing she's interested in? Oh yeah, cheerleading and partying, basically. She's pretty mean. She's not very, she's quite shallow. And so she meets Pike and his friend in the cinema, where there's Pike and his friend snuck in and they're watching the movie and they're chatting away. And obviously, because he's not cool and he's this stupid looking guy and he's got a stupid name, as they say, they do get it on later. They become friends later, but at this point they hate each other. But as the story goes, so does she. She grows into a better person. She realizes that there are more important things than just partying and clothes. She does become the Slayer, as she should be. Her watcher is Donald Sutherland, Merrick. And you really see that she's grown when he is killed later. And she really mourns his passing and carries on the fight because of what he's instilled in her. I will say that this movie is good and bad. There are things to like about it. I like the fact that it gives us a background to Buffy before she went on to Sunnydale and Buffy we all know and love. Like I said, the way she grows is really good. She's fine. Luke Perry is good, but the bad things outweigh the good in this movie, to be honest. The vampire makeup isn't brilliant. I mean, it must have been a fairly low budget. And Lothos is supposed to be this really big, massive, horrible, powerful vampire that she's not ready for every time she meets him. And then suddenly it's the end and she kills him. And it's really over really quickly. And he's like, oh, okay. And there's some really campy bits. It's almost as if this film doesn't know whether or not it's supposed to be a serious comedy film, horror film. And I know it sounds silly saying comedy horror, or whether it's supposed to be just a complete joke. And the reason I say that is the overacting particularly on one of the vampire's deaths, which is this guy here. He keeps coming back. He goes, and whether or not it was supposed to be done like that or he did it jokingly and they decided to leave it in. But it's not played straight. It would have worked better had that been played straight or it just gone out complete parody. It was somewhere in between. And there are films that do that and you think they could have been so much better. When we talk about the series, it plays itself straight, so the jokes come through really funny. Like when she says, at the end, she says, maybe I could just get kicked out of school and she says, I was thinking more like excessive not studying. And Giles says, the world is doomed. It comes across because they play it so seriously, like it's real life, because to them it is. One of the nods, I think, in the series to the end of the film was, obviously, the first series ends on a dance night, prom, and so does this film, which is quite cool. And in both cases, the Slayer's wearing a white dress. Now, obviously, hers is more 90s, late 80s, 90s dress with a puffball skirt. It is long, but that bit get pulled off later during the fight sequence. And of course, in the last episode of the first series of Buffy, she's wearing a long white dress as well. So that's quite similar. And at the end of this one, where she gets on the back of Pike's motorbike, he gives her his black leather jacket, and that's reminiscent of the last scene in the last series of Buffy, where Angel, in the first series of Buffy at the dance, where she's drowned, so she's cold. They've brought her back to life, and he gives her jacket. So again, she's wearing a black leather jacket over a white thing, and it's still things like that link the series to last. We could do a whole video about the series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer if you want. I'm currently rewatching it a bit at a time, and why I think it's superior. I mean, I will make one about the unaired pilot in a bit, but so yeah, I did enjoy it. It is a good film. It is a good film. It is funny. It is funny. It has its moment. But the whole thing with Paul Rubens is the name. There's the actor that played the vampire that overdoes his death. Is if it had played it seriously, the comedy would have come across better, or if it had just gone out with a complete and utter parody from the start. It's like it didn't know what to do. So it's worth watching. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of nostalgia. It's a bit of gratefulness that Joss Whedon didn't let it lie with the failure of a film, because it failed. He carried on and he went and made that wonderful hit series that we all love, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But yeah, that's what I think about the film. It's all right.